Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to look at my team selection for game week 11, but before we do that, let's have a quick look at how my team got on in game week 10. So I obviously used my wild card and it went okay, to be honest. I got a green arrow from 2.2 million up to 1.8 million. So Fabianski in goal. Had Fabianski in goal basically just for 2 weeks, whilst Verbruggen's fixtures weren't great. Liverpool and City for Verbruggen in game week 10 and 11. So Fabianski played in game week 10, hoping Fabianski is going to play in game week 11, and then Verbruggen can come in for Brighton's nice fixtures. But obviously no points from the goalkeeper position. No points from any of the defenders either. Rico Lewis was obviously benched and then came on towards the end of the game, so got 1 point. Although, even if he started, City conceded, so wouldn't have got many points anyway unless he got an attacking return. Trent with 2 points. Hasn't really been getting the attacking returns that we are hoping from him, but Liverpool do have some very nice fixtures coming up, so very happy to keep him for now. I'll talk about my moves or future moves in a bit, but there is kind of future potential for me to lose Trent at some point. 8 Nuri, 1 point. He was very, very unlucky to not get more than 1 point. The positions that he picks up are just ridiculous, so yeah, very, very happy to have him. Mbommo, 3 points. It was quite a disappointing game on Monday night. So I had Raul Jimenez, as you can see, 2 points, and Mbommo with 3 points. Pretty disappointing in general, really, but still happy to have him. He's been absolutely brilliant, Mbommo. Bruno Fernandes with 10 points, which is obviously fantastic. So he got the penalty, or he didn't win the penalty, he scored the penalty. And yeah, I mean, his numbers have been fantastic over the last 2 weeks, and even in the Carabao Cup game as well, albeit that the opposition wasn't great. But the last couple of weeks, his numbers have been fantastic. So I think he and Man United are potentially back a little bit. So really happy I've got him. Salah captain, 9 points. His goal was absolutely fantastic. Glad that I went with Salah over Haaland on the wildcard in the end. Palmer, 3 points. Somehow managed to sneak a bonus point, but I'm not sure how, but we take it. And looks like he might have a little bit of an injury from that challenge from Lisandro Martinez, but we'll have to hear more from Maresca to see if he'll start. It's not the end of the world if he doesn't, as you'll see in my game week 11 team. But onto the forward line, Raul Jimenez we mentioned didn't do a lot. Jackson, again, didn't really have many chances, to be honest, in the game. But it's not one of the fixtures that I got him in for this week, as in game week 10 and game week 11. Obviously, not ideal fixtures for Chelsea, but from game week 12 onwards, fantastic fixtures. I'm just hoping he doesn't get a yellow card this week, because then he misses game week 12. But then Matheus Cunha with 6 points. Really happy I've got him. Southampton next. So again, he looked absolutely brilliant. 8 Nuri and Cunha are definitely the two from Wolves, along with Strand Larsen, to be owning. And then I had Garnacho on the bench. I did have a little bit of a benching headache, to be honest. But glad that, well, it could have been anyone, to be honest. Raul Jimenez, Jackson and Mbommo. Wouldn't have mattered who I benched in the end. I was never really... well, I suppose I was tempted to bench Cunha as well, but it was kind of unlikely. Glad I've got Garnacho for the next 3 as well. So let's look at my game week 11 team now. Okay, so let's look at the goalkeeper and defenders now. So again, as I mentioned, Fabianski in goal. The reason I went for Verbruggen and Fabianski on wildcard was that Verbruggen's fixtures from game week 12 are fantastic, but he played Liverpool and City in game week 10 and 11. Fabianski had Nottingham Forest, obviously, and then Everton at home this week is good, so hopefully he starts again. And then I've got Verbruggen from game week 12 onwards. As always, I don't expect many points from the goalkeepers anyway. Anything is kind of a bonus, given that I'm spending as little as possible on the position. Then the back line looks very good for this week. I've got 8 Nuri of Southampton at home. Glad that he didn't get a yellow card last week, because he'd have been suspended for this game. He will obviously get that 5th yellow card at some point. Again, I hope that it's not this week. Next week, I probably am alright without him though. So It's not the end of the world if he gets it this week, but I'd rather he didn't. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Aston Villa at home. I'm going to play him in every single fixture that I own him for, to be honest. There is a world where, obviously, my team doesn't have Saka in it, my wildcard team. At the moment, that kind of looks fine, given that their fixtures weren't the best last week and the fixture isn't that great this week, so I'm fine with it for now. But Trent Alexander-Arnold may be the way that I get funds to get Saka in my team. But I have no plans to do that this week anyway. Probably wouldn't actually happen until game week 14-ish, when Man United's fixtures start to turn badly, meaning that I could do Bruno up to Saka, which, yeah, would involve taking potentially Trent down. But the third defender I've got is Dalot. The next three are absolutely fantastic for Man United. They've got Leicester, they've got then, I think it's Ipswich and Everton. So it's as good as it gets, which is why I tripled up on Man United. Dalot for the next three is fantastic. I then potentially will sell him from game week 14 onwards, as I mentioned with Bruno. Garnacho, Bruno and Dalot could all be moving on from game week 14, but this week they are fantastic. Obviously Anderson last on the bench. He'll be on the bench most weeks. He's just a cheap playing option if I end up needing him. And then Rico Lewis, tough to know whether he's going to start or not, but this week I don't actually need him anyway. I'd probably play all three of the others over him. In fact, I'd definitely play all three of the others over him, even if Lewis starts. So glad that I don't have to kind of think about and worry about that this week. But let's move on to the midfield. Okay, right, onto the midfield, and it looks good this week. So first up, got Salah with Aston Villa at home. Obviously, a very good fixture, as we saw. Spurs put 4 past Aston Villa last weekend. So I expect Liverpool to also score a few goals, meaning that Salah is obviously a great captaincy option. If you watched my captaincy video from earlier in the week, you'll know that Salah was top of the model. But there were a few people that were kind of quite close. I'm probably 50-50 on captaincy at the moment. At the moment it's on Salah, but there is quite a strong chance that I could change it to Bruno Fernandes. Now, the reasoning for that is in the last couple of weeks, Bruno Fernandes, his numbers have been brilliant. So he's second for shots in the last couple of weeks behind Haaland. He's top for big chance involvements. He's just up there on kind of all the numbers. XG as well, he's second behind Haaland. And Leicester are obviously a pretty bad defence in terms of the teams in the league. So I put a tweet out earlier on about kind of the numbers to do with Leicester, but they also concede quite a lot of chances centrally, which is good for Fernandes. They concede quite a lot of chances in general, to be honest. They're like 19th in shots conceded. Shots on target conceded, I think they're bottom as well. So all things considered, he looks like a great option this week. So I think if there is a week to do it, I think this week could be the week that I go against the kind of Salah or Haaland. But yeah, I'm not sure where I'll land on that yet anyway. And then obviously I've got Garnacho as well, which I'm really happy to have. I think that hopefully they could even combine for a goal, which if I've got Bruno captain, that'll be a dreamland scenario. So yeah, really happy I've got him for this week and for the next 3, to be honest. Palmer. Now we know there's doubts about Palmer's fitness, given that I think Maresca said he had an ice pack on his knee in the changing room after the Man United game at the weekend. So it didn't look serious though, to be honest. So I'm not... it shouldn't keep him out, you'd think, but we will wait to hear more from Maresca anyway. To be honest, it's not the end of the world if he does miss out this week. I will want him from game... It doesn't sound serious, so from game week 12 onwards, he should be fine, and I'll want him anyway. And I actually have pretty good bench cover this week, so as you'll see when the forwards come in. But for me, it doesn't actually matter too much if he does miss out. I'd rather he didn't, of course, but I do have a bench option anyway. And then Mbomo has Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth are a weird team. I mean, they're very good at home. They're very good. So it's not the best fixture. Defensively, they're pretty good, and going forward, they're very good. So again, it's not the best fixture, but I kind of back Mbomo in most fixtures, to be honest. He's got everything you want. He's on penalties. He plays 90 minutes. So very happy to have him. So we'll look at the forwards now. And on the forward line, I've got Cunha, who obviously has a fantastic fixture, Southampton at home. Really glad I've got him in for this and for the subsequent fixtures, to be honest. He's just a very, very good budget striker to hold for quite a long time at the moment. So really happy I've got him. Raul Jimenez with Crystal Palace away. I do have a little bit of a benching headache. It's between Raul Jimenez and Jackson as to who I start. Now, obviously, I mentioned that Palmer might have an issue, so I might end up needing Raul and Jackson, which wouldn't be the worst thing, to be honest. I'm sure most people have worse bench options than Jackson or Raul, so I don't mind it that much. I think I'll probably stick with how it is now, with Raul starting and Jackson on the bench, but it's quite close, to be honest. Then let's talk about kind of future plans for this team. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I can get to around game week 14 without having to make a move. So I'll have 3 free transfers, I believe, by that point. Maybe even 4 free transfers. But anyway, however many free transfers I've got, my plan then is that, so the only players I kind of don't have that I think I will want going forward, potentially Eze when he's back, although from game week 14 onwards his fixtures aren't the greatest. So it's Eze, and then it's Arsenal players. So Saka, the big one obviously, and then potentially a Arsenal defender as well, like Gabriel. But I don't feel like I'm missing out too much without an Arsenal defender really. It's mainly Saka that I would quite want in my team. Now my routes to this are from game week 14 onwards, and Bomo's fixtures get a little bit ropey, so there is a world where I could transfer him out, but I'm also not opposed to keeping him, to be honest. The main ones that do kind of get bad from game week 14 onwards are United's fixtures. I mean, Raul Jimenez as well, actually. His fixtures get a little bit worse soon, but he's so cheap that I'm not really fussed about selling him. If I wanted to, I could just go to Welbeck, given that Brighton's fixtures are brilliant, but if I've got a spare transfer, I could potentially do that. Or João Pedro, when he's back, obviously. But I'm not really too fussed by that position. It's more these United players. The next 3 are fantastic, and then from game week 14 onwards, their fixtures aren't great. So I do have a few options. I mean, to get Bruno Fernandes up to Saka, I'd have to make at least one downgrade somewhere. So that could be Trent down to Chelsea defender, maybe Colwill, Fofana, or Reece James, or potentially, if I make another downgrade elsewhere, then that could be down to Gabriel. Obviously, Mbomo down to Eze would give me a little bit of funds if Eze is fine and I make that move. Other than that, it's kind of Dalot down to a cheaper defender, and Garnacho down to someone like Rodgers or Semenyo if I can afford him. So it's probably the United players that need to be my focus on transferring out from game week 14 onwards, with a view to getting Saka in. But those plans could all go to dust if I can't roll my free transfers to game week 14. So that's what needs to be the focus at the moment. Obviously, Jackson and Ait-Nouri are both on 4 yellow cards, but I do have quite a lot of depth most weeks. It would be annoying if Jackson got a yellow card this week, given that I think next week it's Leicester for Chelsea, so I'd really want him for that game. Hopefully they also both don't get a yellow card at the same time, because then I'd be left with a bench of Ait-Nouri, Jackson, and probably Anderson or Lewis if he doesn't play. So I'd rather they didn't happen at the same time, but I probably can just about deal with it if they do. Given that I'd want to hold them both long term, I wouldn't make a transfer them out anyway. So that's my team, that's my plans. If you like the video, do hit like, do hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.